The words he just spoke could change the rules of international power forever. Nicolás Maduro, the controversial leader who has ruled Venezuela for over a decade, has been captured by the United States. And in his first public statement since detention, he didn't plead innocence. He didn't claim this was a misunderstanding. He didn't ask for mercy. Instead, he declared himself a prisoner of war. 3 words, massive implications. Bolivarian leaders and allied governments are denouncing the operation, calling it unlawful, a breach of sovereignty, and a violation of international law. U.S. officials reject that claim, arguing this was a legal enforcement action, not an act of war. So today, we're breaking this down carefully. What Maduro is claiming, what the term prisoner of war actually means, and why this moment could reshape how international power is exercised going forward. What Maduro said? In his first public statements after capture, Nicolás Maduro declared that he is a prisoner of war. He argues that he remains Venezuela's legitimate head of state, his detention was politically motivated, and that he was seized through force rather than lawful extradition. Maduro's allies describe the operation as an act of aggression, not law enforcement, and say it violates Venezuela's sovereignty. This framing is deliberate. Calling himself a prisoner of war is not just rhetoric. It's a legal and political strategy. What prisoner of war actually means? Under international law, a prisoner of war is typically a combatant captured during an armed conflict between recognized state parties. That status comes with protections under the Geneva Conventions. The U.S. position is very different. Washington maintains that this was not a military conflict between states. Maduro was captured under existing criminal indictments, and that the operation falls under law enforcement authority. This difference in interpretation is at the heart of the global debate, because if Maduro is treated as a prisoner of war, the rules change dramatically. Why this claim matters? Maduro's declaration isn't just about his personal defense, it's about precedent. If a sitting or former head of state can be captured and prosecuted this way, it raises serious questions for governments worldwide. Questions like, where does sovereignty end? When does law enforcement become an act of war? And who decides? That's why reactions to this case are coming from far beyond Latin America. International reaction. Reactions have split along familiar geopolitical lines. U.S. allies are largely silent or cautious, emphasizing legal process. Venezuela's allies, along with several non-aligned nations, have condemned the operation at international forums. Some governments warn this could normalize cross-border captures. Others argue it strengthens accountability for leaders accused of serious crimes. Both interpretations carry long-term consequences. The U.S. strategic calculation. From Washington's perspective, this action sends a message. That indictment-backed enforcement can reach beyond borders. That political power does not guarantee immunity. And that legal tools can be used instead of prolonged military conflict. But it also carries risk. If widely rejected, it could weaken international norms. If widely accepted, it could reshape them entirely. What this means for Venezuela. Inside Venezuela, the impact is profound. Maduro's capture destabilizes existing power structures. Bolivarian leaders are working to preserve legitimacy and unity, and the country faces uncertainty about leadership, governance, and international standing. Whether this leads to reform, resistance, or prolonged instability remains unclear. What is clear is that Venezuela has entered a new phase. What happens next? Several paths now exist. One is prolonged legal proceedings in U.S. courts. Another is diplomatic escalation, as allies push back against Washington. A third is quiet negotiation behind the scenes. And the most dangerous possibility is miscalculation, where political messaging turns into broader confrontation. History suggests most outcomes will unfold slowly, not dramatically. Here's the key takeaway. This case is not just about Nicolás Maduro. It's about how power, law, and sovereignty intersect in a changing world. How this moment is interpreted and accepted will influence global politics far beyond Venezuela. That's what we'll continue to explain here at World Affairs Brief. What's happening? Why it matters? What comes next?